The alien ship drifted silently through the black sea of space, its silver hull glowing faintly in the starlight. Inside, everything was calm and cold. The halls were bright but empty, filled only with the quiet hum of machines and the soft echoes of footsteps. Among the crew was Lyra, a young alien girl from the Valari race, beings known for their glowing blue skin and deep golden eyes. She was curious by nature, more open-hearted than most of her kind, and always searching for something new beyond the logic her species lived by. On this day, Lyra stood near the observation window, staring into the endless stars when an urgent call echoed through the intercom. Unidentified rescue pod detected. Possible survivor. The words made her heart skip. A survivor out here? That was rare. Most lost ships in this region never returned. She turned and hurried to the docking bay, her steps light and fast. Other crew members were already there, preparing to open the pod that had been pulled aboard. The air smelled of metal and ozone, and a faint mist curled around the floor as the hatch began to open with a hiss. Inside the pod was a human male, tall, lean, and wounded. His breathing was weak, and his suit was torn in several places. His face was pale under the cracked helmet glass. The sight made Lyra's chest tighten. She had seen injured beings before, but something about this one was different. Humans were strange to her kind, creatures of emotion, chaos, and stubborn hope. But this man looked fragile, like a flame flickering in the wind. "Careful," one of the medics said, lifting him out. "He's still alive." Lyra followed as they placed him on a medical table. His name tag was scratched but still readable. Ethan Cole. His pulse was weak but steady. The medics began to work quickly, scanning his vitals, patching his wounds, and stabilizing his breathing. Lyra stood at a distance, unable to take her eyes off him. "Who is he?" she whispered. "A human from one of their mining vessels," the medic replied. "Probably drifted too close to the void storms. Lucky he survived it all." Lyra nodded slowly, but something stirred inside her. It wasn't just curiosity, it was a strange, soft pull. She didn't understand it, yet she felt it clearly. A connection, a faint warmth. Hours later, when the medics left, Lyra stayed behind. Ethan was asleep now, his face calm under the soft light. Machines hummed quietly beside him, keeping his body stable. She sat near his bed and studied him carefully, the way his chest rose and fell, the faint scars on his hands, the small smile that still lingered on his lips even in sleep. "What kind of creature are you, human?" she whispered softly. "So fragile, yet still alive after the storm." She reached out slowly and touched his hand. It was warm, warmer than she expected. The moment her skin met his, she felt something, an emotion that wasn't hers, fear, sadness, but beneath it, hope. Lyra gasped and pulled her hand back, heart racing. No one had ever made her feel that before. The Valari could sense emotions faintly from one another, but never this strongly. It was like a wave that reached deep into her chest and touched something she didn't know was there. When Ethan stirred and opened his eyes, she froze. His gaze met hers, soft brown eyes filled with confusion but not fear. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he smiled weakly. "An alien," he murmured, voice rough. "Guess I'm not dead yet." Lyra blinked in surprise. His words were calm, almost joking. "You should not speak," she said gently. "You need rest," he gave a faint laugh. "You sound worried," she hesitated. "You are my responsibility now." Ethan smiled again before closing his eyes. "That's good to know." When he drifted back into sleep, Lyra sat quietly beside him, watching. She didn't know why she cared so much, but she couldn't walk away. She felt something she had never felt before, a fragile thread forming between them. A sense that somehow this broken human had arrived in her life for a reason. Outside, the stars continued their silent dance, and the ship glided through the dark. Lyra placed her glowing hand gently on the glass beside the bed, her reflection shimmering with blue light. "Rest now, Ethan," she whispered. "You are safe. I'll make sure of it." And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt something beyond duty or curiosity. She felt connection. Something had awakened between the alien and the human, something small but powerful, something that would soon change both their worlds forever. When Ethan finally woke again, he was surrounded by soft white light and the quiet rhythm of machines. His body felt heavy, but the pain that had once burned through him was now distant, fading like a bad dream. He blinked slowly and saw the same blue-skinned girl sitting beside him, her golden eyes watching with calm concern. "You're awake," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, like music carried through still air. Ethan tried to sit up, but she quickly placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't move. You're still weak," he gave a faint smile. "Then I guess I owe you my life." Lyra tilted her head, her expression puzzled but kind. "You owe me nothing. Saving lives is what we do." For a while, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was peaceful. Ethan looked around the room, noticing the strange glowing panels and smooth walls of alien design. Everything looked clean and perfect, but oddly cold. "Where am I?" he finally asked. "You are aboard the Valari exploration vessel Varenus," Lyra replied. "We found your pod drifting near the void storms. You were lucky to survive." Ethan let out a low breath. "Lucky? Yeah, that's one way to put it." Lyra studied him curiously. "Your kind, humans? You always say that word. Lucky. Why do you believe so much in chance?" Ethan chuckled weakly. "Because sometimes that's all we have. Hope and a bit of luck." Lyra didn't quite understand, but she liked the sound of his words. There was warmth in them, something her people rarely expressed. The Valari believed in logic, precision, and order. Feelings were seen as distractions. But with this human, emotions seemed like a strength, not a weakness. Over the next few days, Lyra continued to visit him. She brought him food, adjusted his medical bed, and listened to his endless stories. Ethan talked about Earth, about blue skies, endless oceans, and soft rain that touched everything. He spoke of laughter, of people who argued and made up, of music that could make even the coldest heart feel alive. Lyra listened, fascinated. "Your world sounds beautiful," she said one evening. Ethan smiled. "It is, but it's not perfect. We fight, we break things, we make mistakes. Still, we keep trying." "That is strange," Lyra murmured. "Most species stop when they suffer. Why keep trying?" He looked at her with tired but bright eyes. "Because that's what being human means. You fall, you get up again. Every time." His words stayed with her long after she left the room. She thought about her own world, how the Valari avoided pain, avoided emotion, avoided risk. Was that really strength? Or was it fear disguised as peace? One night, Lyra returned to find Ethan struggling in his sleep. His face was twisted with pain, his body trembling. The monitors beeped wildly. She ran to his side, calling softly, "Ethan, wake up!" But he didn't respond. His heart rate kept rising. Without thinking, Lyra reached out and placed her hand on his forehead. Her palm glowed faintly as she used her natural gift, the empathic touch, to calm him. Valari healers could use their energy to sense emotions and soothe them, but it was always risky with other species. Still, she couldn't just stand there and do nothing. The moment her mind touched his, everything changed. Memories flooded her senses, Ethan's memories. She saw flashes of his past, his crew laughing on the ship, the explosion, the fire, the desperate cry as everything went dark. She felt his pain, his loneliness drifting in the void, and his quiet wish to live just one more day. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She had never felt such raw emotion. It was overwhelming, burning through her heart like fire. But beneath all that pain, she also felt something else, hope. Even when everything was lost, Ethan's heart had not given up. Her own energy flowed into him, calming his mind, steadying his heart. Slowly the shaking stopped. His breathing evened out. The monitors went quiet again. When it was over, Lyra pulled her hand away, trembling. Her chest ached, but she was alive. Normally a Valari would collapse after connecting so deeply with another species. But she didn't. She was still standing, still breathing. She looked at Ethan's peaceful face and whispered, "What are you, human? Why does your spirit not destroy me?" For the first time in her life, Lyra felt the warmth of another's emotions without fear. It was like finding color after a lifetime of gray. She sat beside him for hours, unable to leave, her mind replaying the connection over and over again. That night, as the ship drifted through the silent stars, Lyra knew something inside her had changed forever. The human she had saved had done something no one believed possible. He had touched the heart of a Valari and left her unbroken. And in that fragile, glowing bond between them, something new was beginning to bloom. The next morning, the ship was quiet. The long silver corridors of the Varenus echoed softly with the hum of energy lines and distant footsteps. Lyra moved slowly, her thoughts tangled in what had happened the night before. She could still feel the warmth of the connection, Ethan's emotions, his memories, his heart. It lingered in her like a melody she could not forget. When she entered the medbay, Ethan was awake, sitting upright with a gentle smile. His skin had more color now and his eyes looked brighter. "Good morning," he said, his voice still rough but calm. Lyra paused by the door, unsure how to face him. "You seem better," she said softly. "I am," Ethan replied, "and I think it's because of you." Her golden eyes widened slightly.
"Me?" he nodded.
"Last night I felt something, like someone pulling me out of a dark place. Was that you?" Lyra hesitated, her hands tightening around the small medical device she was holding. I don't know how to explain," she said carefully. "I used my empathic touch. It's something my kind can do. We sense emotions, sometimes heal through them." Ethan tilted his head. "You felt my pain?" She nodded slowly. "I did, all of it. Your memories, your fear, your loneliness." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "It was so much. I thought it would break me." Ethan looked down, guilt flickering across his face. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have gone through that." Lyra shook her head gently. "No, don't be sorry. You didn't harm me. You made me feel alive." Her words surprised even herself. She had always been taught that bonding with another species was dangerous. That emotional connection brought chaos to the mind. Yet here she was, standing before a human who had shared his heart with her, and she felt no pain, only warmth. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. There was silence, but it wasn't empty. It was full of meaning, of emotion, of something neither could quite name. Days passed, and their connection grew stronger. Whenever Ethan laughed, Lyra could feel a faint ripple of joy in her chest. When he felt tired, she sensed it too, as if their minds were lightly touching. It was not full telepathy, not complete sharing, but something in between, a gentle thread that tied them together. Ethan began to walk again, his strength slowly returning. Lyra often walked with him through the observation deck, showing him the stars and distant worlds. He would ask her endless questions about her people, her planet, her culture. "The Valari," she explained once, "believe that emotions cause instability. We avoid strong feelings. That's why bonding with another being is forbidden. It brings too much chaos." Ethan smiled softly. "Maybe that's what makes us human. We live in chaos. We cry, we fight, we love. It hurts sometimes, but it also makes us who we are." Lyra looked at him quietly. "And yet you survive it. Even after pain, you still love. That's what makes us strong," Ethan said simply. "We break, but we rebuild." His words touched something deep inside her. She realized how small her world had been, how afraid her people were of feeling too deeply. Yet this fragile, emotional human had shown her another way of being alive. One evening, as they stood together watching the stars, Lyra felt a strange pulse in her mind, a spark that came from the bond. Ethan felt it too. Their thoughts brushed against each other for a single heartbeat. "Did you hear me?" Ethan whispered. Lyra gasped softly. "I think I did." For that brief moment, their connection was no longer just emotional, it was mental. She could sense his thoughts, his warmth, his care. It was deep yet soft, like sunlight through water, and then it faded. Lyra placed a trembling hand over her heart. This shouldn't be possible. No Valari can bond twice with the same being without harm. "But I feel—" "Fine," Ethan smiled gently. "Maybe we're rewriting your rules." She looked at him, her golden eyes shimmering with emotion. "If the council finds out, they'll say I've broken the law." "Then let's keep it a secret," Ethan said quietly. "Our secret," Lyra smiled faintly. For the first time, she liked the idea of keeping something just for herself. She wasn't sure what this bond truly meant, but she knew it was something pure, something that healed instead of hurt. That night, as the ship glided silently through the stars, Lyra sat by the observation glass, feeling the gentle echo of Ethan's emotions within her. It was soft, comforting, alive. She whispered to herself, maybe the universe isn't meant to be cold. Maybe it just needed someone to remind it how to feel. And far away in his quarters, Ethan smiled in his sleep, feeling the same quiet warmth in his heart, though he couldn't explain why. The Varanis floated silently through the dark sea of stars. For the Valari crew, it was just another day in their long mission. But for Lyra and Ethan, each passing hour felt different, alive, strange, and filled with quiet connection. Lyra no longer visited Ethan as a patient. She visited him as a friend. Sometimes they sat together in the observation deck, sometimes they shared stories in the med bay, and sometimes they just sat in silence, watching the stars. Words were not always needed between them anymore. A faint bond pulsed softly beneath the surface, letting them feel each other's emotions like gentle whispers in the dark. But not everyone was blind to what was happening. One morning, the chief medic, Taryn, called Lyra to the medical lab. His expression was serious as he placed a glowing tablet on the desk. "I ran a diagnostic on you last night," he said. "Your neural readings are strange." Lyra frowned. "Strange how?" Taryn turned the screen toward her. "Your empathic pathways, they've changed. They are stronger, more balanced."
It's as if your connection has stabilized.
"That's impossible after bonding with another species." Her heart skipped. "Impossible," he nodded. "A Valari mind can't sustain foreign emotion without harm. But your readings show no damage. None at all." Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she stared at the data. It was true. After bonding with Ethan, she should have suffered mental strain, pain, or even collapse. Yet she felt perfectly fine. Better even, she felt alive. "I don't understand," she whispered. "He didn't hurt me. The bond, it feels natural." Taryn's golden eyes narrowed. "You need to be careful, Lyra. If the council learns of this, they will see it as corruption. They will separate you immediately." She lowered her head. "But I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose him." Taryn sighed deeply. "Then keep it hidden. Whatever you've done, keep it secret." Later that day, Lyra went to see Ethan. He was sitting on his bed, tinkering with a broken piece of his old flight helmet. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "Hey, Doc," he said playfully. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Lyra hesitated, then sat beside him. "Something happened," she said softly. "They know my readings are different," Ethan frowned. "Is that bad?" She nodded. "They think I broke a rule. Valari are forbidden to form strong bonds with other species. It's dangerous to our minds. But with you, it's not." Ethan looked at her carefully, his eyes filled with concern. "So you're saying we're connected?" "Yes," she whispered. "Our minds touched, and the link didn't fade. I can feel your emotions sometimes, like soft waves. When you're calm, I'm calm. When you're happy, I feel it too." He stared at her, unsure how to react. "That's kind of amazing," he said finally, "but also terrifying." Lyra smiled faintly. "For me, it's a miracle. All my life I was told that emotions bring pain, that deep bonds destroy us. But you—" She paused, her voice trembling. "You make me feel safe." Ethan reached out and gently took her hand. "Maybe we're both learning something new," he said. "Maybe we're proving them wrong." The warmth of his touch sent a small wave of comfort through her. The bond hummed softly between them, invisible yet powerful. A few days later, the Valari Science Division began monitoring both of them without saying much. They noticed that Ethan's recovery was happening faster than normal. His cells healed twice as quickly, his mind was clearer, and his body no longer rejected the ship's environment. It was as if someone was helping him from within. When the scientists compared his readings with Lyra's, their findings shocked them. Their neural frequencies were synchronized, like two instruments playing the same note. "This shouldn't exist," one scientist whispered. "A human and a Valari, in perfect harmony." The rumors spread through the ship quickly. Some whispered that Lyra had performed forbidden bonding. Others said the human had somehow infected her. Lyra ignored them all, but she felt the tension growing. One evening, she stood alone by the window watching a distant blue star shimmer. Ethan joined her quietly. "They're talking about us, aren't they?" he asked. "Yes," she said, her voice soft. "They're afraid of what they don't understand." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then let's show them understanding isn't something to fear." Lyra turned to him, her golden eyes shining with quiet courage. "If they find out, they might separate us. Then we'll face it together," Ethan said simply. Her heart warmed. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what might come. She wasn't afraid of emotion or connection. She was afraid only of losing it. That night, as the stars drifted silently outside the glass, Lyra whispered to herself, "Maybe this is what my people have been missing. Maybe love was never a weakness, it was always the cure." And deep within her, the bond with Ethan pulsed softly, alive, growing, unstoppable. The quiet peace aboard the Varinus didn't last long. Whispers turned into questions, and questions turned into fear. The Valari were not a race that welcomed change easily, and Lyra's strange connection with the human became the center of every private conversation on the ship. Some called it unnatural. Others called it dangerous, but the loudest voices were the ones that reached the council chamber, the ruling circle of the ship. Lyra was summoned early one morning. The silver doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing a room filled with tall figures, their glowing blue forms calm but cold. Ethan wasn't allowed inside. He waited outside the chamber, his heart pounding. Inside, Lyra stood in front of the council, her hands trembling but her chin held high. The eldest among them, High Elder Saren, stared down at her with unblinking golden eyes. Lyra of House Velen. His deep voice echoed. You have violated one of our oldest laws. You have formed an emotional and empathic bond with a non-Valari being. Do you deny this? Lyra's heart pounded. Every instinct told her to deny it, to protect herself, but she couldn't lie. No, she said softly. I don't deny it. A quiet murmur rippled through the room. Saren leaned forward. Then you understand the danger. Such a bond should have destroyed your mind. Yet you stand here unharmed. How? I don't know, Lyra admitted. But it didn't hurt me. It healed me. It made me feel alive. Her words made the elders exchange glances of disbelief. Another counselor spoke sharply. You risked your sanity for a creature who barely understands his own mind. Humans are unstable, emotional beings. How could you allow such contact? Lyra raised her voice, emotion shaking her tone. Because he's more than what you think. He is kind, brave, and full of hope. I felt his pain and his strength. You call emotions weakness, but he uses them to survive. Enough! Saren's voice cut through the room. You have broken our law. The bond must be severed immediately for the safety of both species. Lyra froze. The thought of breaking the bond made her chest ache. No, please, she whispered. If we cut it, it could harm him. Maybe even kill him. Saren's expression softened only slightly. Then it is mercy. Better to end one life than to risk two. Her heart shattered. She wanted to scream, to fight. But she knew the council's word was final. Two guards stepped forward, waiting for the order. I will not do it, Lyra said suddenly, her voice steady. I will not break the bond. The room fell silent. Saren's tone turned icy. Then you defy the council. I follow my heart, she answered quietly. Outside, Ethan paced anxiously until the doors opened. When Lyra walked out, her face was pale, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. What did they say? He asked quickly. They want to end it, she said softly. Our bond. They said it's dangerous. Ethan felt a cold fear crawl through him. Can they do that? Yes, they can. Her voice cracked slightly. They don't understand. They think emotions make us weak. He took her hands gently, feeling her tremble. Then we show them they're wrong. Tears gathered in her golden eyes. If they find us disobeying, they'll take me away. Then we run, Ethan said firmly. We'll find a way. Lyra looked at him with shock. You would risk your life for me. He smiled faintly. You already risked yours for mine. For a long moment, neither moved. The soft hum of the ship was the only sound between them. The bond pulsed quietly, glowing like an invisible thread of light. I can't let them hurt you, Lyra whispered, but I can't lose you either. Ethan brushed his thumb gently over her hand. Then we fight together. Even if they don't believe, we'll make them see. She nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. Together, she whispered. That night, alarms echoed faintly through the ship. The council had decided to act. They ordered security to locate Lyra and bring her in for the bond removal procedure. But by then, she and Ethan were gone, hidden deep within the maintenance decks where the machines hummed and the air smelled of metal and heat. As they crouched together in the dim light, Ethan looked at her. Do you regret it? Lyra shook her head. No, I've never felt more alive than now. She took his hand, their fingers intertwining. For a moment, she closed her eyes and whispered, No matter what happens, I'm glad I met you. Ethan smiled softly. Then let's make it worth it. Above them, the ship's engines roared quietly, carrying both of them toward a fate no one could predict. But deep inside their hearts, one truth had already taken root. Love and connection were not weaknesses. They were the strongest bond in the universe. The lower decks of the Varanes were dark and silent, filled with the soft hum of engines and the faint shimmer of coolant pipes. Ethan and Lyra sat close together, hiding behind old cargo crates. The metallic floor was cold, and the dim blue emergency lights painted their faces in soft shadows. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence between them was heavy, filled with fear, uncertainty, and hope. Lyra finally broke it. "They will find us soon," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "The council will not stop until the bond is broken." Ethan looked at her, his eyes steady. "Then we give them something to believe in." She frowned softly. "What do you mean?" "We prove that our bond doesn't harm," he said. "We show them that it heals, that it's not weakness but strength." Lyra's golden eyes shimmered with disbelief. "Ethan, they won't listen to words. They only understand proof. Then we'll give them proof." His voice was firm, full of quiet courage. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Humans were strange, so fragile yet so fearless. "You would risk everything for this?" Ethan smiled faintly. "I already did the day I met you." Her chest tightened. She wanted to protect him, to keep him safe, but deep down she knew he was right. If they ran forever, the fear would never end. The only way forward was through. Hours later, alarms rang through the ship. Red lights flashed and guards spread across the decks. Lyra and Ethan moved silently through the maintenance corridors until they reached the central chamber, a large dome filled with energy conduits and glowing crystals. It was the heart of the ship. "This place," Lyra whispered. "It's where the life energy of the ship flows. If we use it, maybe the council will see the truth." Ethan nodded, though he barely understood. He trusted her. Before they could prepare, a loud voice echoed through the chamber. "Lyra of House Velan. Human Ethan, you are surrounded. Surrender now." Dozens of armored guards appeared from every side. At the center stood High Elder Saren himself, his golden eyes burning like suns. Lyra stepped forward, shielding Ethan. "Please," she pleaded. "Listen to me. The bond doesn't harm, it heals." Saren's voice was cold. "Lies, no one can bond twice and survive. It violates every law of our biology. Then look," she shouted. Without hesitation, Lyra turned to Ethan and placed her hand on his chest. The bond pulsed instantly, bright, radiant, alive. A warm light spread from their touch, filling the chamber. The guards froze. Even Saren hesitated. The glow grew stronger, spreading like sunlight through water. Lyra's body trembled, but not from pain. This was power, pure and gentle. Ethan's heartbeat echoed through the link, steady and strong. "I feel his life," Lyra whispered softly. "It's not hurting me. It's healing me." Saren frowned. "Impossible." "Watch," she said. She closed her eyes, letting the bond flow freely. Every memory they shared, every laugh, every fear, every moment of trust flashed between them. The light around them turned golden, soft and alive. Ethan felt warmth rush through his body. The exhaustion, the old injuries, even the scars he carried. They faded. He looked at his hands in shock. "Lyra, I feel different." Lyra smiled weakly, tears filling her eyes. "Because I gave you what I had to give, and you gave it back." Saren stepped closer, his face pale with disbelief. "You can transfer energy." "Through emotion?" Lyra nodded faintly. "Through love. Through connection." The elder stared, unable to look away. The readings from his wrist device flashed wildly. Her life signs were stable, her neural link unharmed. "This is beyond belief," he whispered. "No Valari has ever bonded twice and survived. And you," he looked at Ethan, "you are not even one of us." Ethan took Lyra's hand gently. "Maybe that's the point," he said quietly. "Maybe it's because I'm human. We don't see love as danger. We see it as life." The chamber fell silent. The guards lowered their weapons slowly. The golden light faded, leaving behind only the two of them, standing together, breathless but alive. Saren finally spoke again, his tone softer. "You have done what no one believed possible. A bond without harm. A bridge between species." Lyra smiled through her tears. "We didn't do it to break rules. We did it to understand." The elder nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have much to learn from your kind, As the chaos settled and the council withdrew to discuss what they had witnessed, Lyra and Ethan sat on the floor, exhausted but peaceful. Ethan leaned back against a metal pillar. "So do you think they'll let us stay?" Lyra smiled faintly. "They'll have to. You changed everything," he laughed softly. "No, we did." She rested her head on his shoulder. The hum of the ship surrounded them, calm and gentle this time. For the first time since the bond, she felt no fear, only warmth, only peace. And as the stars drifted past the windows above, Ethan whispered quietly, "You can bond again, without harm." "That's beyond belief." Lyra's eyes glowed softly as she smiled. "Believe it," she said. Days passed after the incident in the energy chamber. The Varini's was quieter now, but not out of fear, out of reflection. Every Valari who had witnessed the golden light between Lyra and Ethan spoke of it in hushed awe. What had once been called impossible was now a living truth. Lyra spent much of her time in the ship's garden, where strange blue plants glowed gently under artificial sunlight. It was her favorite place, a small piece of peace amid the steel corridors. Ethan often joined her there, sitting beside her as soft lights danced across the leaves. "I still can't believe we made it through," Ethan said one evening. Watching the light shimmer around her, Lyra smiled faintly. "Neither can I. When I first met you, I thought humans were reckless, too quick to feel, too quick to trust. And now?" he asked, half smiling. She turned toward him, her golden eyes warm. "Now I think your heart is the strongest thing I've ever seen." Ethan chuckled softly. "That's funny. Because I think your courage saved us both." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the faint hum of the ship. The bond between them was quiet now. Not burning, not glowing, just steady like a heartbeat. Later that night, the council summoned them again. But this time it wasn't a trial. It was an audience of respect. The great hall shimmered with blue light as the elders rose from their seats. High Elder Saren stepped forward, his expression no longer cold. "Lyra of House Valen," he said, his deep voice calm, "and human Ethan. The council has seen your bond. We have studied it, and we cannot deny what we witnessed." Ethan stood tall, though nervous. Lyra remained at his side, her hand brushing his lightly. Saren continued, "Our people have feared emotion for centuries. We believed it brought only pain and imbalance. Yet you have shown us something different. Connection without destruction, trust without control, love without harm." Lyra bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Elder." Saren's golden eyes softened. "We wish to learn. From both of you." Together, the chamber filled with a soft murmur of approval. For the first time in Valari history, the word bond was spoken not with fear but with hope. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had never thought of himself as someone important. He was just a human, lost, curious, small in a universe full of giants. Yet here he was, standing beside someone who had risked everything for him. Lyra reached for his hand again. "You see?" she whispered softly. "You changed more than you know." He looked at her with quiet affection. "We changed it together. Weeks passed. Life aboard the Varini slowly returned to normal, but something was different. The Valari no longer avoided the humans stationed on the ship. They asked questions, shared stories, and even tried to understand laughter. Lyra became a symbol among her people, not for rebellion but for renewal. Her story spread across other ships, and soon more Valari began experimenting with emotional contact, carefully, gently, inspired by what she and Ethan had done. But for Lyra, none of that mattered as much as the moments she shared with Ethan. One quiet evening, as the Varini's drifted near a distant red star, they stood by the observation window. The universe stretched endlessly before them, filled with colors no human eyes could fully name. "It's beautiful," Ethan murmured. Lyra nodded slowly. "It's endless, and yet, with you it feels small enough to hold." He smiled softly. "Do you ever regret it?" "The bond?" She looked at him with gentle sadness and deep affection. "No, it changed everything. It broke laws, yes, but it also healed parts of me I never knew were broken." Ethan's voice was quiet. "You healed me too, Lyra. I used to think I was just a man lost in space, surviving. But you made me feel seen." Their bond glowed faintly again, a soft pulse between them. Warm, alive, peaceful. "I used to think emotions made us weak," Lyra whispered. "Now I know they make us infinite." Later that night, as the ship moved quietly through the stars, Lyra recorded her report for the council archives. Her voice was steady but full of feeling. "Connection does not destroy us," she said softly. "It reveals us. The human heart may break, but it also heals. It loves again, even after pain. That is what makes them strong, and through them we learn strength too." She paused, looking at Ethan through the glass reflection. "I once believed bonding twice was impossible, but now I understand it's not the bond that destroys us. It's the fear of it. When we trust, when we open ourselves, we don't fall apart. We become more. Her voice grew softer. He taught me that. When she turned off the recorder, Ethan walked over and smiled. You're going to change a lot of lives, you know. Lyra tilted her head gently. We already did. They stood together hand in hand as the Varani sailed through the endless dark. Around them, stars shimmered like tiny sparks of belief, each one proof that even in a vast, cold universe warmth could still be found. And somewhere, deep in the quiet bond between a human and an alien girl, a new truth burned bright. Love was not limited by species, distance, or fear. It was the universe's oldest and most beautiful power,